Hello, boys and girls. We are going to be talking about making a design. So I showed you how to make a square, but now I want to take that square and I want to make a design. So now I'm going to say when I receive square, I have it making a square right now. So what I also want it to do is that I'm going to this is the button on how I make a square. So just to make my code a little bit different, I am going to name this block of code because this block of code is how you make a square. Okay, so you are going to come over here and say my blocks, and you're going to make a block and you're going to call it a square. So now I've already written the code for a square, so now this defines a square. So now whenever I want to do something, this would be my define if I wanted to make another square somewhere. So now when I receive square, I'm going to tell it to, instead of putting all that code in there, I can say make a square. So now when I click it again, it made a square. Okay, so now it made a square there, and so now we have that square. So now that I have this code there that tells, because this code reads this code, so this is called a function. So we are now going to take this, we've made a square, and now I'm going to make a pattern. So I'm going to come over here, and to make a pattern you have to do a repeat. So I could put this in up here, and you could see that it's just going to make a square over and over and over and over again. Okay, but what I want it to do is I want to make a square and then I want to rotate it. So I am going to say turn a certain amount of degrees. So I could say turn so many degrees, and then I could say turn so many degrees, and then I'm going to put, instead of a forever loop, I'm going to put it in a repeat. Now, how many times to get to 360? 15 times 360. I'm going to repeat that 24 times because 24 times 15 is 360. So now if I did this, okay, let's hook it back together. I click the square. Oh, I need to put the pen up here. And I need to put this when I receive the square over here. So make sure this is just the beginning. This is, okay, so now let's try again. I think I need to put the pin down inside the square. So I think I'm going to have to debug this just a little bit, but put this over here. And now let's see what that looks like. Yeah, so now you see that it has made this design because it is putting down the square in that design. Now I could make this, but the cool thing about this is that I want it to not just always make it here at 0, 0, but what I want it to do is I want it to be able to go anywhere that stays on the page. So what I'm doing is I'm going to say go to, instead of staying at 0, 0 like this one, because you made this really cool spiral graph or kaleidoscope shape, now I'm going to tell it to pick random numbers to go to a random. I don't want to say just a random place because I don't want it off the edge. So I want it to stay within the stage area. So in order to do that, the numbers for that are this. You're going to say negative 190 to 190. Okay, so that would be from about here to here. And then on your Y, you're going to say 130 to, oh, I'm going to do that. Pick a number again. And you're going to say pick 130 to negative 130. And that's basically the top, front, kind of like from here to here. So we're kind of making the shape stay within this area right here. So when it receives the square, it will make a new shape. And if you wanted to, every time it made the square, you could come over here to looks and you could say switch the color. So I could say switch change the color. So every time it gets here, so now I'm going to do the square, hit the flag, hit the square again. So you see it showed up over here. Now if I click it again, it shows up over there. Now if you're noticing, I have this big line right here. So every time I do this, I want to make sure that I do a pin up. So I've told it to do a pin down. So I think in my definition of a square, I could do a pin down, up or down in either of these spots. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to say put the pin up. So then I don't have this line. So now I'm going to come over here again, click the square, it starts there. Click the square and click the square. So you see it's making these designs wherever we are doing. Okay, and if I don't want the original one to show up anymore, I could always tell it to hide, so that way you don't see this little button, or if you like it, you can leave it there. So you could put a hide here afterwards. So this is how you would make a square design with turns and moves.